Welcome everyone from your different countries and your different time zones to the South-South Women Wisdom Conversations. Seem to have got the wrong one up. Give me a second, sorry about that. I don't want to go into Anne's presentation, which is what I think I was doing.
I could support you presenting.
Can everyone see my screen? No?
No.
Okay, let's try this again. It's been a while since I've shared screen. So, hola, Mabel.
Hello, everyone. Hi, how are you, Taina?
Good to have you here. Okay, let's try this again. Welcome everybody to the South-South Women Wisdom Conversations. We had taken a little bit of a break in October, just as things were, beginning to transition once again. And here we are back in November with a full month's worth of wisdom to share. Today's conversation is a really exciting one as we bring together two influencers, both renowned influencers in their sectors, with Dr. Annah Kyoya, who prefers to go as Anne, and Delia Flores, who is from Argentina, to have a conversation about rethinking enterprise, understanding the culture for business. And what wisdom conversations are, they are a platform for networking to generate action and results between and for and amongst aspiring women across the global South. We are inclusive, which means men are always welcome. And we do this. Wisdom conversations are really about sharing authentic, professional, and personal experiences. And this we felt was particularly important, especially when we started them, when COVID began. And we found that there were many of us who needed to now start looking beyond our current networks into new cultures for new ideas, and to expand ourselves, and as we expand ourselves, to expand as many people as we could around us. So welcome to today's conversation, and thank you very much once again for being here in your different time zones and from your different countries. A little bit about South-South Women. We are an international network of conscientious women and men from the global South. The global South means developing countries or emerging economies. And we are all engaged, like each of you, in wisdom sharing and impact work throughout the world. Our wisdom conversations are about creating connections across cultures through sharing authentic experiences. South-South Women is driven by our values. Our values are the foundation upon which we are built, and they guide all of our activities. Our values are inclusion. Inclusion because we engage and involve people across a broad spectrum. Acceptance. We cultivate safety and security for people to feel embraced. And our wisdom conversation is a form of acceptance virtually. Honor. We do what is consciously right. And honor is such an important value to us that we, together with 10 pioneer influencers, women from different cultures and countries and age groups and abilities from around the world, came together to define what is our code of honor. How do we as South-South women operate in relation to other people? How do we set ourselves up to be treated by people with whom we are in relationship with? And how do we treat nature and our natural environment? This is our code of honor. We stand for and never deride one another. This is a way of saying there is no backbiting, no gossiping, no talking about one another without the presence of the other. So we really respect and stand for every person who is part of this network. We also respect and consider the other's industry, profession, business, expertise, contacts, everything that you come to this network with, we acknowledge. I have a personal saying that says, what we steal will never last. What we borrow, we must give back. So this particular code of honor is about honoring, respecting the source. We respect the integrity of the creation of the network. We speak truth. And because all of us have a personal truth, we also fundamentally seek to understand. So curiosity drives how we understand the other person's truth. So thank you for being here today. Now that you have a little bit of an idea of the platform that you have come into, we won't go so much today into exactly what South-South Women is about and what we do, but we can always share that information with you. This is a starting point. And the starting point today is by bringing together people from around the world to talk about understanding the culture of business. What kind of a business culture are women now responsible for creating? As the world transitions, what is our role in either understanding the current culture that is occurring or creating a new one? And how do we want to do that? Are we as women responsible for providing solutions to some of the current challenges that we face in business or entrepreneurship or in relationships? And some of those problems that come to my mind, breaking the glass ceiling, women to women support and empowerment, and corruption, which is what our first presenter and influencer today, Dr. Kyoya, is very passionate about, because she has just authored and recently launched a new book on this subject called Tackling Corruption in Africa, Anti-Corruption Solutions Beyond 2030. And corruption plays a big role in how we create or how we operate in a business culture. So without further ado, let me introduce Anne, who is the founder and CEO of Leadership Impressions Limited. She is Kenyan. She is somebody I have had the honor of knowing for a few years now, and we have had some great interactions together. Her organization helps private and public institutions to develop their own appropriate mix in culture for their business growth. Driven by her passion for ethical leadership, Anne also likes to partner with like-minded leaders to train and engage young African professionals and entrepreneurs. And I was very fortunate to be invited to speak a couple of weeks ago to her group of young entrepreneurs, and we spoke specifically about breaking through the glass ceiling. And additionally, Anne also works with a South Africa-based organization called Advanced Leadership Academy to train leaders across and between Africa and Europe. So we do have a real cultural expert in our midst today. And aptly the right person to be sharing her wisdom and knowledge about understanding the culture of business. Anne, welcome, and I'll ask you to take the platform.
Thank you, Zaina. And this is a great opportunity that I have. I will go straight to the presentation because I know the time is pretty short. You will let me know once you can see my screen. Just confirm that you can see my screen. All right.
We can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, Zaina has already introduced me, and my business is pretty short. I'll be talking about the culture, understanding the culture of business. And this is something I love. Interestingly, for a long time, I didn't know what I just thought as an employee. I didn't think of that I could actually run business. I didn't consider consultancy as a business, but I'll share with you briefly a little bit about my story. I believe that culture is a crucible within which organizations' business thrive. And I'll prove that to you very, very shortly, okay? Let me share with you a little bit of my story. I worked with the NGOs in 12 African countries with different senior positions, including a regional role. Actually, a number of you possibly know World Vision. So my last assignment was in Joburg, where I looked after 9 countries. But when I left and I came back to Kenya, I'm a Christian, so and I'm not trying to download the other people's faith, but my church, home church, has an international school. It's called Emerald International School, and the school is a business, and it was going down. So the church asked me to look after the school to see how I could help them turn around the school. So the first thing I did was culture audit, because the church runs on a different culture as opposed to business. The school is a business. The church is a religious organization. And I'll show you that briefly, that different cultures, organizations can rest on 4 different cultures. And one somehow has to be dominant. And don't worry, I'll take you there very briefly. So when I did the culture assessment in that particular institution, I realized that the school was running on a wrong culture. Everything was good, systems were okay, teachers were qualified, but it was just not making business. And so the first thing, which they had never realized, is that the right systems were resting on the wrong culture. So there was no growth. And that's why I started by saying that culture is a crucible. Those of you who did chemistry know what a crucible is. Is that hard kind of a bowl where we put chemicals in the lab and, mix and burn. Those of you who did chemistry understand that. So culture is that crucible. It's that medium within which things run, organization run. So if you have the wrong culture, it doesn't matter how good a strategy or business is. And then I will also be talking about how the leader culture influences the organization culture. So after doing that culture, of course, then I began to work with the team towards shifting the culture. It takes a while to do that, but I can proudly say 3 years down the line, the school is profitable. So that's why I have a story to share. And there are many places where I've seen organizational culture impacting the business. So having said that, therefore, what is culture? And in this case, I'll focus on organization business culture, which is mainly organization culture, but I will touch the leader culture because the two are related. Now, culture here in this case is a set of shared beliefs and values established by leaders. I want you to notice that word that I've underlined because that's very critical. And then once a leader establishes a culture, they communicate it in different ways to the employees. So there are 2 groups here. Organizations don't have a culture of their own. Somebody influences or shapes that culture. Organizations or countries or whatever is people who influence culture, because left on their own, you cannot talk of organizational culture without either the culture of the leader or the culture of the employee. So mainly it's a leader. That's why when you change a leader, actually, when we want to change a business, we change somebody. We change either the leader, and the leader could change their own organization, their own culture, or you could bring a leader with a different culture. So we'll shortly see the different cultures that run businesses. But basically, culture is a set of values and beliefs and assumptions, and sometimes what you call artifacts. And I'll come to that very briefly. So when a leadership has a particular culture, they pass it to employees together. Then they can tame or produce a type of a culture in an organization Now, culture has 3 levels, basically. Now, let's talk about a little bit of the leader or even the organization. It is what we see, we call them artifacts. It is what we believe in and what we espouse as values. But it also has another layer we don't see and very, very strong. And now, if I walk into your business, I can tell you roughly what kind of a culture you are. I can tell you whether it's an official culture or traditional culture. Just look at what's around there. So when I'm doing culture assessment, I don't just read strategies. I quickly look around what is in the building and I ask what's it, what's hanged on the wall. If I come to your house, I'll look at a few things. What do you have in the kitchen? I'll tell you culture. It begins from there. So there are things that we see and they tell us about somebody's culture. But again, like Zaina just said, their values, your spouse, honor, you know, that tells us the kind of a culture that person is. It's not a corrupt person. So the values, the belief system, the behaviors we demonstrate. But there are deep-seated beliefs that we don't say, but they really govern our culture. For example, somebody might believe that unless, like you said, I think I'll quote you, Zaina, what you have stolen, you must return. You said like that. What you have borrowed, you must pay. And what you have stolen something, you put it somewhere. I don't know how you put it. But that's a very deep-seated belief that influences the way you do business yourself. It may not be spoken, but it's a deep-seated belief. Those are the assumptions. So meaning, if you believe and you assume that theft is not good, then you can't steal. It's an assumption, and you cannot tie. You can't connect with people still. So just wanted to say this very quickly that culture can be seen in the way we dress, in the way we speak, the language, choice of word, artifacts. It's belief, it's values, but it's also things that we don't see very strong. Now let's shift to business culture, because this is really my docket. My business today is to talk about business culture. Now, businesses and organizations, I'll use those words interchangeably in this case. If you talk of business culture, businesses ordinarily need to rest on 4 different types of cultures. There is what we call the clan culture. This is a family culture. It's a culture that people are family, you know, they are together. It's a very good culture for stabilizing organizations. It's very good. And then the other culture is what you call the hierarchy culture. This is a control culture. It's a system culture. So some organizations, if the leader has a very strong culture, this is a kind of a family business. It's people are family, they relate free, we care for each other. And this is important. But then that's not the only culture that a business can have. And we'll see which one of these is best for a business. And then you have the hierarchy, as I say, this control, you know, very timely, you know, your tight systems are tight. So there are leaders, again, who are very strong on that culture. And then we have the one, we call it the Ideocracy culture. This is an innovation or innovative culture. You know, there are people who are very risk-taking leaders. They innovate quickly, they move fast. And so these are culture that promotes innovation. And then we have a market culture. Market doesn't mean the market we talk about, it means the customer. It's a caring, it's a customer caring culture. So I want you to see all this, and in culture assessment, it's important that organizations rest on these cultures, although not equally. Depending on the nature of the business, one culture is supposed to be slightly dominant than the other. For example, back to the example that I gave you earlier, I told you that there was a school, which is a business, in a church. A church setting tends to be more clan, is family. So that particular religious organizations, if a leader has a very strong clan culture, it does very well. But that's a wrong culture for a school, because a school is a business. So a school needed the other two would have been stronger or would have thrived well in actually either market culture because of care of customer or Ideocracy culture. So organizations need to rest, and not exactly 100%, but think of a table with the 4 legs. So organizations need to have 4 legs. One can be stronger depending on the nature, but if you have the wrong culture matching with the right different business, the business will naturally die. So let me just show you something, a little bit about these cultures. Now, 2 of these cultures are clan culture, as I said, just from the word family. It's flexible, it's friendly, it's caring. You know, people use leaders or individuals who are dominantly clan in culture, because individuals also have a particular culture. These type of people tend to be very friendly. They are assuring, they are caring. but they rarely confront, and they can let go hierarchy. Now, hierarchy is control, so it stabilizes organizations. So I want you to see, one is flexible, one is stabilizing. And then we have these two, the clan and hierarchy tend to be internal. They are cultures either internal to people or internal to the organization. But the other two are equally very important. They are outward cultures, okay? The Ideocracy or the clan culture, in this case, as I said, these two are external. Ideocracy is also flexible, but it's external. A market can be stable, but it's a strong culture because it's a caring, but it's external. Now I want to see, there are those cultures that are internal, there are those cultures that are external. And a business that thrives well must blend all these cultures. And as I said, depending on the nature of the business, you may have one. For example, let me give an example. If this is a telecommunication company, like we have a company in Kenya called Safaricom, I expect that company to be very strong on these two cultures. Because if it's not an innovating, constantly innovating, and taking care of its customer, it will naturally die. However, that same company needs to take care of its staff so that then the staff these staff don't keep changing and losing staff. But at the same time, it needs to have control, because if it loses income, it doesn't matter how much income it's making. And I just want you to show that. But this inner two culture shouldn't be as strong in that particular company as these two. So it depends on the nature of the business that you have at place. Okay, so let me just show you the characteristics. For example, I just want you to show the family. It's friendly, it's a friendly place. This is where people just want to, it's altruistic, it's selfless. You know, a leader, in this case, becomes a trainer or a mentor. They are loyal. In this case, this is really, it's like a family. You know, people are together, they promote togetherness, they focus on human restoration, you know. So you can really see teamwork. So you see the characteristic of this culture is basically family. Look at the control culture. It's rather formal. You know, it enhances efficiency, it employs values, you know, value employs good coordination and structures. This is where you are talking of efficiency, accountability. You know, you want a financial system, for example, that's strong, or you literally are controlling things in place. And then when you look at the Ideocracy of the innovation culture, it's dynamic, it's creative. You know, it promotes innovation. You know, people here are risk takers. Here you need what you call mavericks. These are guys who are risk takers. And we get what you call innovation labs. These are places where you create an opportunity for people to risk without feeling guilty, to fail without feeling guilty. And then you have the customer care. You mind more about the customer. So you can imagine a business really that has these cultures, it definitely will grow. So let me just raise a few things here, a few important tips, because really this is a short presentation. Culture is very rich, so I cannot tell you everything about culture today. But I just want to say a few things. The overall leader of any organization or business determines the dominant culture. Let me give an example with myself. I'm a risk taker and very innovative. I am daring. I venture into things, and I can almost get Zaina, you are a risk taker. You know, to do something like what you are doing, you must be very daring. So most likely you have a culture, a strong culture. In your case possibly would be, let's say, a combination of caring and Ideocracy. Now, for myself, I am very strong with control also. So I have two very strong systems, very strong cultures as a person. I'm a risk taker, so I tend to innovate. I dare do things. And then I love the systems in place. But I'm also very, very market oriented. Now, I'm not a very strong clan leader. Now, my deputy, where I support them in school, she's very strong in clan. See the blend there? So she's very, very strong in clan, and she's very good with control. She's not a risk taker. So because of that blend, we grow business. I'm more outward oriented in culture, and wherever I lead, wherever I take over an organization, I am innovative. I go, I risk, I get moving. So I want you to know that the leader of an organization shapes the dominant culture. That's very important. And then we tend to pass that to the people after us. The second thing that I wanted to show, sorry for the numbering, there should have been 2, 3. If a business is not aligned with the right culture mix, the results are wrong. I gave you an example already. I told you my school that was business, it was supposed to be innovative, it was supposed to be growing because it had a business aspect of it, but it was running on a clan culture, a stabilizing kind of, religious, assuring, caring. It was not growing. So we needed now to have a shift, and I will mention how do you have those shifts. So if the culture that is running an organization or a culture mix, because a particular business could require a culture mix. For example, let's say you are dealing with a business, you are dealing with a hospital. A hospital is a caring institution. So one, it needs both a customer, a market culture, and a client culture. But it also needs innovation and control. So, but in that case, possibly the dominant culture in that hospital should be clan. Because if it's not a caring place, people won't come. So the customer looks for care in that case. So the customer will look for the culture that is important. That's why I say that if a business is not aligned to the right culture, makes it will die. And then any successful business must find a reasonable balance, because as I said, and I don't think I want to overemphasize this, it's not necessarily 50-50, but we need to find a balance. And then inappropriate culture can be corrected. Don't get discouraged and say, I think I have the wrong culture, I have the wrong culture mix, I think that's why I'm failing. No, even when you are leading an organization, you possibly don't have the right culture now, but it can be corrected. And it can be corrected in a number of ways, but one of them is to train you as a leader and make you begin to embrace the right culture mix. And then finally, another tip that I wanted to say is that types of dominant culture in your business can be identified through a culture audit. It's difficult if you are not a culture expert to just quickly know what culture is dominant in your organization. So I think I just wanted to share those tips and then leave you with some 3 questions. Which of these 4 describe your personal leadership culture? As I was talking, I know I rushed because of time, but when you look at the descriptions of those cultures, you can already begin to say, I think I'm more caring, or I'm a risk taker, or I'm more concerned with the customer, or I love systems. I want things right. Does it align with your role within your organization or business? Because if your business requires a different culture and you have a different one, it's very difficult to grow the business. Remember, culture is a crucible to the business. And then finally, what do you plan to do going forward? Thank you. Zaina, back to you. I rushed.
And that was really, really fabulous. Eloquent. You gave us a whole new perspective on how to break down culture, which is truly incredible. And I can tell how astute you are, because just from a few words that I have said, or the little that you know me, you have pinpointed my personal culture.
Okay.
So I really like the question that you have left with each of us. Which of the 4 culture types describes you? And we'll leave that with the audience as we move into Delia's presentation.
Okay.
And
thank you.
As we do that, I would like to welcome everybody who is joining us from different parts of the world. I would like to say hello to Alicia. Alicia had a question. I will give her the floor later. To Monica, to Daniela, to Maria, to Beatriz, to Eleonora, to Karina, to Joyce, to Rose. We have 2 Joyces. Helen, hi. Angela, great to see you. And Sandra and Susan. Thank you so much for being here today. And we have just listened to Dr. Kyoya talk about the culture of business. And I would like to bring this whole concept into our next influencer's presentation as she goes through her own story of how she has taken her culture around the world. Delia Flores from Argentina is a foreign trade entrepreneur specialized in customs, logistics, and international transportation of land cargo in both Argentina and in Brazil. She is an active member of various chambers of commerce in Brazil and in Argentina, the founding president of GEMA, Grupo Empresarial de Mujeres Argentinas, the entrepreneurship group of women in Argentina, many of whom are here today, and les damos una muy cálida bienvenida, las de GEMA. GEMA is a national association with alliances of businesswomen from around the world. Now, what both Anne and Delia have in common is that they are both authors. Delia co-authored a book, O Caminho do Sucesso, Success Stories Told in the First Person in Portuguese. She has represented the women entrepreneurs of Argentina at the G20 W20 summit in Germany, the B20 G20 in Saudi Arabia just recently, and she was the only Latin American woman representative. She's a member of the Honorary Committee of Argentina Women Economic Day and a board of directors for the Women Economic Forum in Argentina, where I will also have the pleasure of speaking on the 10th of November. So we will keep you posted. In general, Delia, who I have had, several interactions with, is a dynamic and ambitious and passionate woman who is an active worker for the economic strengthening of women worldwide. She loves to focus on entrepreneurship and the greater participation of women in places of leadership and especially in business. And she is convinced that that economic autonomy is the true way of empowering women. And I know many of us are aligned with her on that. And because of that, Delia, please take the platform.
You're muted.
Thank you so much for your invitation. Congratulations, and for your great exposition. Jumbo. Yes, I am from Argentina.
Sorry,
I was
Jumbo.
born Jumbo. Yes, I am from Argentina. I was born in a city on the geographical border with Brazil. I work with foreign trade, customs services, and the international transport of cargo in trucks. I have a company in Argentina and in Brazil. From a very young age, I felt a great inclination to help women. And I started to participate in a world congresses of business women. The first was in Scotland, that I met women from all over the world. And there were many African women, Congo, Cameroon, South Africa. And I understood that beyond language, culture, or diversity, women all speak the same language, and we are connected through our concerns and challenges. That was women for the national in international fairs and congresses, exhibitions, take part in the UN Women in New York, where there is also a large attendance of American women, African women. And I am currently a delegate to G20 Saudi Arabia. My first steps into the G20 are marked as two great milestones in my life. When I received the invitation from Germany in 2017, everything I experienced there seemed like a dream. I met Premier Angela Merkel, Queen Maxima of the Netherlands, who is Argentine, Christine Lagarde, and the most powerful women in the world. I had them there so close in every way, human beings of flesh and blood, with all their greatness, but all their predisposition, inspiring women. The DW of Germany, which is the official channel of the country, sent a reporter especially to Argentina. They had 4 of them. That video was shown at the summit of the W20 in Berlin and stayed on the digital channel for quite some time. You can't imagine the emotion I still feel when I see that video. At the end of last year, I received the invitation from Arabia to join the Action Council Women in Business. It was and is for the Arabs under G20 the source of pride because they want to change their culture and integrate women into business. And the G20 is an idea Arabia at the beginning of this year. And there I met powerful women and the opulence of a country that wants to reconvert its main activity, oil, to tourism. Investing millions in tourism. In Arabia, every meeting, lunch, or dinner was an incredible treat, a luxury. Such a different culture. I thought that by this time I would have returned to Arabia for the B20 summit, but the pandemic broke out and lasted much longer than we anticipated. We couldn't get back together and all scheduled meetings went virtual. I love Africa. In 2001, I traveled to South Africa for the first time on a Mercosur trade mission. As a result of that, I was invited to be a part of the South African Chamber of Commerce, where I am a managing member. From then on, I made several trips to South Africa for tourism, business, and as a member of the chamber. I love traveling, knowing culture, people, having friends all over the world. It's necessary to understand and know the culture so that there is true cooperation, so that a business or an agreement lasts, is prosperous and true. In my company, 20 years ago, I decided to establish in Brazil. I opened my company there, and it wasn't easy for me. Another language, other laws and labor custom, different from those of Argentina. But I kept going despite all the problems that I found. Fundamentally, 1, for being a foreigner, 2, for being a woman. I'm persistent and I continue against all odds when I want to achieve something. Perseverance, I would not have achieved several things. That makes me get more strength when things get complicated, especially when I see that someone wants to put obstacles on me. I am a lioness. Speaking about GEMA. GEMA is an association of women entrepreneurs and professionals. It means in Spanish, Grupo Empresarial de Mujeres Argentinas, that I founded in 2009. We will support women. We will give them tools for their business life, building networks in Argentina, but also in different countries where we have been visiting in commercial missions that we organized ourselves, business trips and world congresses. As a result, we were signing cooperation alliances with chambers of women from different countries, such as Germany, USA, Spain, Peru. At GEMA, we work for the internationalization of business women, for international trade, but also to know how things are done in other countries, share experiences, and learn. You learn a lot by knowing other cultures, countries, and good practices of other organizations. It seems incredibly that we are already 11 years old. GEMA grew, became stronger, and today it has a prestige based on values such as integrity, ethics, solidarity, and in the actions we take in all the country. Many networks are strategic alliances, businesses, advice and articulation with the government at all levels arise from GEMA. The pandemic made us redouble our activities and be closer than ever to our members. We practice also, I have a hobby, an interview program, Tacones de Punta. I like to know about people and learn, but that learning is also a way of transmitting it to others, communicating it. This is how the interviews I carry out in Tacones came about, and that is how I met Justo Casal and Zaina Canavi. It is a pleasure. My country of birth is Argentina. It is a country of people who like friendship, the family, the barbecue meat. We drink mate, we are supportive, and there is a great entrepreneurial spirit. Accustomed to crises that often, unfortunately, we have to go through and overcome. What image do you have of Africa? What image do we have of Africa? When we talk about Africa, it is usually taken as a country, thus as one country, a giant, a single thing. There is a lot of ignorance, and we have to get to know each other more. It is necessary to know them more, that everyone knows the beauty and potential that many African countries have, such Kenya, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, Ethiopia, Uganda, South Africa, Nigeria, and it's a long list. I think we have to learn from their brotherhood culture, from Ubuntu. Today I address a new clothing that we wear as identification and choice. That of our culture that support and transparent commercial relationship based on ethical relationship, integral and disciplined principles. With the new closing, we must become agents of change, committed with an ethical and transparent vision to reach the growth for our nations. I am convinced that today is a good step for Gemma to leave the path open for a promising future of our businesses. I'd like to ask you and Anne, what image do you have of Latin America and to Argentina, of Argentina? Also, if we want to do business and connect with Africa, what should we know about you? Getting to know us and achieving this connection help us to connect personally through technology to generate business between us and our countries. Dressing in the same clothing open the door to generate growing societies, both collective and individual, of each Kenyan and Argentine leader. Now, thank you. Now I have some picture to show you, to share with you. Some photo. This was in January in Saudi Arabia in the meeting of the B20 with the delegation of different countries. UN Women in New York. Some of our trade mission of Gemma, this is in Miami, USA. Some pictures of photos of the G20 Germany in 2017 with the Premier, here with Christine Lagarde, and on the left is Ivanka Trump. A forum in Arequipa, Peru, organized for Gemma and the Chamber of Women from Peru. One of the annual Congress in Germany, in this photo on left, Monica, our member of Gemma, who is here in this meeting. Monica is giving a mate to a friend of a German friend, Britta. This is in Hamburg. It was in Hamburg. In this photo, one of our lunch of Gemma. And the last photo, I am in one of my trucks for international transportation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Delia. And I'll ask everybody now to unmute their microphones to applaud Delia and Anna, to give them the recognition they truly deserve for their inspiration.
Thank you, Delia. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delia.
Thank you very much.
Delia, thank you for sharing your story with such passion and conviction. And you have truly inspired us through your story and the work you are doing for the empowerment of women all around you and all around the world. We're grateful that you could be here today to share of yourself, and thank you for doing so with truth and humility.
Thank you very much.
Very much for doing it in your third language. Which is truly Truly amazing. And I think every day we are challenging ourselves. And if we are kind enough to ourselves to allow us to challenge ourselves for our own growth, then really there is no obstacle. We can all be African lionesses in the face of obstacles.
Yeah.
I would like, if anybody has questions, please post them to me in the chat. I would like to hand the floor to Alicia Cibulca, and please tell me if I have pronounced that okay. You have a question for Anne. Please go ahead and ask.
She's muted. Yeah,
Yeah,
Alicia.
wait.
Go.
There we go.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
We can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you for your invitation. I enjoyed this platform with all the women from different countries. I am so happy because Susie Wexea is my friend from Kenya too. And I have a question to Anne, please. I have synthetically observed the content of your book, its pillars. How do you manage to dress and sustain values, integrity, when I drink to dress and sustain these values? And I observe that the levels of corruption in direction of the entire planet do not decrease. I want to make the change in my area of influence, but it is titanic task. How about your suggestion for my little work in my country and in my space of influence?
Okay. I hope I got the question, Zaina. She's asking how she can make a change in the area of high influence, correct? As a leader, is that right?
Yes, yes. How to bring integrity and values to a space of corruption.
Okay.
And how can she do that? How can she make her change?
Okay. About your book, I looking about your book, and you give us about the dress with integrity, and this is so important for me.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. You know, life is about choices. And the choices we make determine the decisions or the kind of life we live. So it first starts with you to decide, you know, because you have places where there is no integrity, and you have a place where there is integrity. So the foundational place is first an internal decision that I am going to live a life of integrity. Then the second step is how. Now, if we already espouse, if we believe the values, for example, if I believe in the value of integrity, then I'll do things that way. Initially, it will be difficult, but with time, it will be possible. Now, let me say this. We know a fish is alive depending on the direction it's swimming in the river. If the fish swims the same direction with water, it is dead. But if it swims against the force, upstream, we call it so in English, upstream, where there's a lot of force, it is alive, it's living. Therefore, you know, the world tends to be like a river, a huge river, and it's swimming. If we are not careful, it tends to carry us in one direction. But if you decide to be like a fish, there are several things that are going to happen. One, the fish decides, it makes that decision to go against the current. So you have to make a decision to go against the current of corruption, against the current of unfairness, against the current of, you know, theft, whatever it is. It is a choice first you make. Number two, you have to tell yourself that it's going to be difficulty, it's not going to be easy, but you will swim anyway. The fish may not, depending on the volume of the water in the river, the fish may not swim a very long distance, but it will swim. And with time, it will get to the source of the river. I've used that example, we call it analogy in English, to help you know that if you choose to go the life of integrity, there's some sacrifice you will make, there's some effort you will make, you will face opposition, very strong opposition, like a river, the current. It's going to be there, but keep swimming. It's a matter of time. You will get to the source. Number two, that's the only way we will know you are alive. If you swim down the same direction with the river, then we know you are dead. Don't die. Live and swim against the current. And encourage yourself. And we are here to encourage each other. Okay? I hope that has helped.
What a beautiful analogy. Your personal culture is about who you are, and to keep yourself alive, you must be willing to be the fish.
Fight.
Who
You must fight for
against
it.
The current.
You must fight for it. Yes, you must fight for it. And then one of the ways to help you fight, because swimming is tough. You know, the reason why fish keep swimming, because many times they don't go alone. They go in a group. And they don't just go in a group, they go in a particular group. So look for people like you who are swimming along the side of courage, integrity, forthrightness. Swim with them, because sometimes the battle is heavy and sometimes the currents are huge, they will sweep you back. But you see other fish that are swimming, then you get encouraged. So don't go alone, swim with other people. And even sometimes when the current push you back and you lose some ground, don't get discouraged. We call it losing traction. Don't get discouraged, swim again. And one day, the world will look for you because they will discover you are alive. That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. The world will know you are not a dead fish. You are a living one. It's a matter of time. Start slowly, but keep going.
Beautiful. Really, really powerful analogy. So we're getting some comments thanking you for that. Yeah, really, really great. And I would like to now ask Paula. Paula, you also had a question for Anne. Please unmute yourself and share your question.
And Delia, and my question for you is, as you are a culture specialist, when you work with customers or within organizations, and I believe it might be easier when you are consulted on culture, for example. I believe it's easier for you to understand which of the four types of cultures is the appropriate or the more appropriate for that organization in that context with that market. Mm-hmm. I also believe that for that organization to walk the talk into the convenient culture, it's good for them to understand where they come from. And for you to understand where they come from, how do you go through that process? Is it through conversations with them, which you identified what type of culture they have? Do you use any particular tools? Is it just through, how do you identify where they come from to help them understand?
Okay. So two things. When I do culture assessment, I look at first the local, the regional context.
Question.
Yeah. Because regional and national cultures affect organizational cultures. And I'll give an example. There are two huge types of cultures that put regions and countries together. there is what we call high power distance culture, which is mainly affects African and Eastern Southern American region. Now, what does it mean? This is the type of culture where we give power to the leader, even when we know the leader is wrong. It's high power. In other words, we give power to someone who is high. So it's called a high power distance, and there's a distance. There's a distance between the subjects, that's the people being led, and the people who are leading. Now, Africa has that culture. Southern Asian countries, the Asian countries in the Middle East, you know, have that kind of culture. In other words, we honor the leader. Even when we know the leader is wrong, we don't question. Okay? So those cultures impact the organizations that live in those contexts. And I'll give an example with Kenya, for example. If we know a leader here is corrupt, but they are still senior somewhere, we can still, the subjects can still elect that leader as a political leader, because our training, our orientation help us, we willingly give power to the leader, even when we know the leader is wrong. Now, the low power law, I want to see low power distance. In other words, the distance between the leader and the subject is very close. It's very common with the Western world, the Americans, the British. It means that the follower can challenge the leader. And it's okay, it's taken, it's accepted. In my culture, if I challenge a leader, it's not accepted. It was even if it's a woman. So the first thing I look at is what type of a culture is in that context, because it does influence the organization. But the other one I do is I use tools. There are certainly international tools that facilitate the staff within the institution that I'm assessing to tell me what kind of a culture is. Because remember what I told you when I was making a presentation. The leader influences the culture, and they pass their culture to the followers. So many times, the staff in the organization, you can use them to tell you what kind of a culture. They don't know what they're telling you. I just take them through a tool. They will genuinely just even give me percentage and certain description. Then I will assess, and I'll tell you the kind of a culture. So number one, just to say, I look at the national or regional culture. Then I look at the organizational culture using certain tools. But number three, I do a conversation with you, and as you tell me your story, I'll just listen, the decisions you made, what you went through, I will pick the culture. Now, Zaina has never told me her culture, but just those interactions we have had together, just talking, I got her to present, she was talking for 2 hours. But within 2 hours, telling us what she has done, what her passions are, I was able to pick her culture. So because of my orientation and my knowledge in culture, I interview also. So I do 3 things. I interact and study the external culture. Then I use the staff to use tools to assess the internal culture. And then I analyze that information. Number 3, I do interviews one-on-one. Then I can be able particularly to get the culture of the leaders, not just one leader. I can get a culture I am particularly interested in the overall leader, but I also get the departmental leaders. Depending on the nature of your business, I can be able to tell. But I'm very, very keen with the overall leader, because that is a dominant culture. It's a type of culture that influences the business in the organization. I hope that's clear. Culture is very, very rich. I just touched today and just a small thing about culture, but it's so serious that it completely can detour an organization to success or to completely diminishing it.
Thank you so much, Anne, for that.
Thank you.
Mini training. My goodness, there's so much value. Paula, I hope that your question was answered.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And I would like to now ask Karina for the final question of today, which I believe is directed towards Delia. And maybe Karina, because you're from Argentina, you may want to present the question to Delia in Spanish, and I can translate into English.
you.
Before you do that, I just want to say a very warm welcome to Penny Lin from Bermuda. Thank you so much for being with us here today and for representing your region. And to Justo Casal, who is well, he's my husband before anything, but also a big proponent for how South-South women got started in the first place, which means that when it's very important who we align with in partnership, and especially our men. So thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, Karina.
Hi, how are you? First of all, thanks to Anne and Delia for sharing with us all your experience. And my particular question is that if you feel there is a gap between women, the problems of women between developing countries and undeveloping countries. You have a lot of experience working in Europe or the United States, sharing this experience with international forums and meetings. And sometimes we feel that here in the South, we have more problems than in the North. So what is your impression about that?
Partly, yes, you're right.
Sorry, and just a second. Karina, was that question directed
Is that
to
Karina or to me? Karina.
No, both of them. You can
okay,
answer.
Let Karina go first. Let Karina go.
Delia?
I mean, is it me or Delia?
Both of them, both of you. You have experience in international forums of women.
Okay, so let Delia first go because I've been talking. Let her go, then I'll jump in.
Bueno, Karina es argentina y es miembro de GEMA. Es la encargada la coordinadora de comercio exterior de GEMA, y con ella estamos organizando una serie de programas de GEMA. En este momento yo quisiera, hay quizás algunas que le están dificultando el entendimiento. Yo hablo en español y en todo caso después Zaina responde, traduce en inglés. ¿Te parece, Zaina?
Sí, está bien. So I'll just start by saying that Karina is the coordinator for exterior commerce for GEMA.
International trade from GEMA International. We have a
international trade. Okay, perfect. I'm sorry, it's cutting a little bit, so I'm going to do my best.
No, don't worry. If not, I can help you. But the idea is that Delia, what he's saying is that we have a special area in GEMA that is called International GEMA that helps all the women to show their goods and services over the world. So that is our main goal. So that's why my question was focused, is that you have experience overseas, is to understand or to show women that we have all, from my point of view, we are trying to make this all over the world for the same equal. No, we share the same problems all over the world. So I want to listen their experience.
Perfect. So if it's okay when Delia speaks, Karina, if you can,
I can translate,
because you'll be speaking pretty much the.
Yo te traduzco, Delia. Contanos tu experiencia con otras mujeres internacionales, si vos encontraste una diferencia entre nuestros problemas y los problemas que encontrás en el primer mundo.
Totalmente diferentes culturas. No es lo mismo, it's not the same, it's not the same German woman, German entrepreneur as Argentinian or Peruvian or so, Spanish. Totally different. That is the importance, esa es la importancia de sharing experiences, de compartir culturas, compartir experiencias. We learned a lot from German entrepreneurs. Monica Resek, who is listening in this moment with great attention. Monica sharing with me that experience in Germany in the Congress of Women Entrepreneurs, and that a difference from Germans and Argentinian women, Argentinian entrepreneurs. Es una gran diferencia entre alemanas y argentinas. They like us, I don't know what, German would like German women because we are different and we learn one from other. Es decir, we learn from them and they learn from us. That is important. And so with the same with Peruvian entrepreneurs, with, I don't know, Americans entrepreneurs, different, totally different, totalmente diferente, y nosotros aprendemos un montón unas de otras.
Yeah, maybe Zaina, I can add something. Yeah, so, you know, as I said, culture is very rich, and culture is in layers. There is family culture, there is community culture, there is national culture, there is regional culture, there is organizational culture, there is leader culture. They are all cultures. And the first level of influence of who we are is a family culture. And I'll give an example. Although, as I said, Africa in itself, and Kenya for that matter, Africa particularly, has what we call high power distance culture. In other words, the culture is traditionally one where we respect the leader. Now, I come from a community in Kenya called the Kambas. Now, the Kamba culture is a maternal culture. In other words, a woman is very respected and she's very strong. It's not a patriarchal culture. Most Kenyan societies, the male culture is strong, but in the Kamba culture, the woman is given a lot of power. So as I grew up, I saw my mother make very major decisions. She never divided, she never showed discrepancy or difference between me and my brothers. In fact, she used to say, I have given you a blank check. She would say, you sign what you want. In other words, I've given you equal rights. You decide how far you want to go. So I engage my brothers with authority because my parents did not put me down. Forget about the national culture. First, it's a family culture. Then the family culture is so strong on you, how you are brought up. But family cultures are influenced by national cultures. That's what I said, and community culture, meaning if most of us, for example, then come from an environment where women were never given a voice as they grow up, our parents train us that way. I'm sure Zaina will tell you, moving from Africa to Canada, it's Canada, Australia at some point, changed her because the culture, the exposure there is very different. So the more I interacted with people from a different culture, then I discovered some of the things I was cultured as I grew up, although I had a very, very empowering mother, the context did not give me the right culture. So say something we call in culture a culturation, from the word culture. A culturation is where cultures from low, very empowering cultures, they come together with cultures that are disempowering, and they create another culture there in between. So Africa is Kenya, for example, is going through a completely, the kind of culture my son has is completely different from the kind of culture that my brothers had. Because now, see, my son is growing up with a very empowered mother. And I don't oppress him and my children. So family first, but the exposure we have, because if we move from a very oppressive culture to an empowering culture, we quickly shift. So to come to your question, Alicia, is that it's true, most southern countries where there's poverty and where the male gender is very strong and other very controlling cultural factors that don't favor women, the women in those cultures are not as vocal and as bold and as encouraged. They don't even have, for example, the ability to be able to articulate things. For example, the fact that I'm able to speak a foreign language so fluently, it is in itself power. I mean, I am able to engage people from a different culture, because one of the most powerful thing about culture is language. If I come to your culture and I can't speak to your language, I'm frustrated. So I just wanted to say that culture is in different levels. The first level of influencer is a family, but we can change our culture depending on what we have been exposed to. Education influences us, economy influences us, exposure influences us, because we are picking different languages and values and habits. And if you remember what I said from the word go, culture is about values, it's about belief systems, it's about exposure. So with time, women from the South, who are truly, many of them very oppressed, they are beginning to come out. Look at Delia. Our exposure is completely different. She already told us that she turns into a lion. You think she turns into a lion because of anything? She is an empowered woman. She has the currency. She has sat with presidents. She is knowledgeable. So she has gained certain values that have helped her to be a negotiator in the power table. Okay? So yes, what you agreed is true. Women from the poor Southern, African countries, we have a very oppressive culture. But be encouraged. This is a forum that we are encouraging each other. However, listen, again, culture is very powerful. Handle it with care when you want to change. You must be skilled. You must be smart when you are confronting culture. It can kill you. It needs to be confronted with wisdom and skill and tact. There's something in English called tact. You're skilled. So, but don't give up. Culture needs, remember my river story? The river of culture? We must swim upstream. But we need to know who we are swimming with, what time we are swimming, the speed at which we are swimming, who else is pushing us up when we get tired. I think that's long.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your responses. Thank you so much for the wisdom that has been imparted today. Thank you so much for the contribution from all of you, of your time, of your energy, of the high vibrations that you have brought to this forum so that we are able to connect across cultures, across continents, and all the while learn more and more about our personal culture, our personal power, and how we can bring that to the spaces in which we interact, starting first and foremost with our family, with those closest to us, whom we sometimes forget are the most important on which to impart a culture. A very enlightened African leader from Kenya, who's no longer with us, had said, if you want to create a progressive community, you start with the family. And the family is often what we forget most. And yet during this whole transition into COVID and beyond COVID, we are being taught again that family is the baseline for the establishment of a culture, but real culture starts in here. A fish cannot know if they are swimming upstream or downstream unless they have an idea about if they want to swim upstream or downstream. You cannot make the choice to travel to different parts of the world and sit at the table with women from Saudi Arabia and women from Germany unless you make the choice that who you are is what you want to bring to the table. So may we all leave this conversation with greater wisdom and power and courage to implement our truth, to go along the way of our journey, And as we do that, look more and more to how we can be establishing ethical, conscious forms of leadership and working together through our alliances. Well, thank you very much to Anne. Thank you very much to Delia. Thank you very much to our South-South Women team, Alejandra and Ibiene and Justo, for making these wisdom conversations possible. I would now like you, I will now ask you to unmute your microphones and either say goodbye to everybody or just, you know, leave us with a statement from yourself before you leave the platform. You may say goodbye in the language of your choice.
Goodbye to everybody.
Kwaheri.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bless you all.
Gracias.
Have a great day. Bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
every team.
Bye.
Love you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Beautiful
much.
session. I
you.
enjoyed it.
Such a pleasure.
Gracias a todas las gemas que han estado presentes. Les mando un abrazo a la distancia con el corazón. No las nombro a todas, pero las veo. Muchas gracias a todos. Thank you very much. And your words are so inspiration.
Thank you.